do? We went to our advisors, we went to our investors to ask them, what should we do? One of our advisors is Steve Blank. Does anyone here know who Steve Blank is? Cool. So Steve Blank wrote a book called 4 Steps to the Epiphany, and he's also one of the forefathers of lean startup. Think about this for a minute. Here we are, this company that was hiring and spending a lot of money without product market fit. But we had an advisor who invented the lean startup method. We couldn't have been like farther from a lean startup. We were a fat startup. We were fat, okay? Like this was not an easy conversation to have. So we invited Steve to our office to have dinner. And we started opening up about all the problems we were having, and like, Steve, people aren't paying for the service. And he agreed with us. He said, yeah, at this rate, you're gonna die. And you know, it's just like Steve to go, you know, congratulations, like, you failed. And this is how he said, this is awesome news, because now that you know you failed, you can do something about it. And I was feeling so demoralized at this time. I was depressed, I was anxious. I didn't know if I wanted to be in startups anymore. And I'll never forget this day, and I'll never forget what he did next, because before Steve left, he saw that my copy of 4 Steps to the Epiphany was on the table. He picked it up, he opened the cover, and he wrote me this message. And I'll never forget it. It was this support that really pulled us through this time. And all of our advisors pretty much had the same message for us, which is, we believe in you, you'll figure it out. And spoiler alert, we didn't die. Inanero did not die. We actually are alive. And I'd like to share 5 lessons, or 5 things we learned when we had to start again. So the first lesson is, don't look back. So like I said, we were almost out of funding, all right? And we knew that our model wasn't working, so we had to make some drastic changes. And none of them were easy. So the first change that we had to make was, we had to fire everyone. So all of our employees, that big fancy office, the chefs, everything had to go, all right? And then secondly, so not only did we have to fire everybody, like in our company, we also, like when I say we had to fire everyone, I really mean everyone. You wait for it, this is cool. Like, this is, even our customers, we had to fire 20,000 business owners who were using us. So this is the press announcement that I went out that said, Inanero is ending the free plan, and they are going to delete all data for non-paying users. This is the breakup email, where we had to break up with all these 20,000 users. And in it, we basically say, look, we can't afford to support you anymore, so if you don't start paying us, we're going to delete your account. And a couple months later, I had to send a similar email again to all our paying users of our old model. Right? So very painful, but you know, while we were going through these changes and getting back to we actually fired, you know, after we fired everyone, we could get rid of the office, and we moved in this really small, cramped apartment. And you'd think we'd be really sad at that point, but to be honest with you, we were relieved. Like, there was no more pressure, there was no more, you know, having to pretend like everything was going great. Like, this was actually a really fun time for us. And this is the backlash. After we broke up with all our users, you know, people weren't happy. There you go, boom. So this is Quora and Twitter, just like people were angry at us, and the public perception was that we were done. But Jess, Andy, and I were determined to find something that people would pay for and that actually would solve a real problem. So this is the second lesson, right? When you have failed, go back to the basics. forget everything and go to the pain again. So what did we do? We went to all of the users and friends that we had that use our dashboard and said, why didn't you pay for Indinero? Why? And they all had something really similar to say. They said, we liked your dashboard. We really did. But what I really hate about my accounting is sending invoices and dealing with my payroll and filing my taxes. If you could solve that, I would pay way more than $20 a month. And that's exactly what we did. So Jess and I took the dashboard software and we decided to add bookkeeping, payroll, and tax filing, and instead of $20 a month, we were going to charge anywhere from $300 to $1,000 a month. And this pain was so real that our first couple customers wrote down their credit card numbers because we didn't have it ready for credit card processing. All right, we knew we had something because people were writing down their credit card numbers. We didn't hire anyone to help us either. We had learned our lesson from the first time around. So instead of hiring, I did all the bookkeeping. I did all the payroll. Jess took the exam in the United States to be able to file tax returns. So she's actually an enrolled agent for the United States. She can file tax returns. And both of us did the work it took to service our first group of customers. And I'll be honest with you, that was the hardest I've ever worked in my life. It was miserable, but we learned so much about the problem we were solving and the pain we were solving, and that's the basis of what Indinero is today. Indinero is a full-service accounting, tax, and payroll solution. So our companies get the dashboard, but they also get their bookkeeping, their accounting, and their taxes filed. And we help startup companies, any company that has a presence in the United States, many types of small businesses, and we charge anywhere from $300 to $6,000 a month today. So how did we grow? That's how we came up with Indinero. That's how we kind of got out of the pickle we were in. But how did we grow it? So some of you may know that at 500 Startups we have distro stacks and there's crazy email hacks to grow your business. And if you don't know about it, you should sign up if you're a startup. But that's not how we grew at all, because at that time I didn't know anything about sales. All I knew was one thing, and that was my secret weapon. It was our only weapon, and that comes to lesson 3, which is that empathy pays. So again, I didn't know anything about sales, so what I did is for our first couple customers, I went out of my way to make them happy. I would make sure that in the first week of a customer's life with us, they had a really big problem solved. And then I introduced a referral program that kind of works like Dropbox's model, where you get a month, the person you refer gets a month, and using that and just extreme attention to the service, excuse me, I was able to generate over $1 million of annual recurring revenue in 10 months. Okay, so just using referrals, And this is what Indinero is built on today still. All right, so this is a review from a recent customer of Indinero. All right, and I really want to bring this up because I talk to a lot of startups and they worry a lot about the top of their funnel, getting leads in their funnel, but you don't really hear people talk about the bottom, like the retention of their companies. And I want to stress that investing in someone in your company that really understands customer success is great for retention, and it's also a form of customer acquisition if done right. So the next lesson I want to talk about are what metrics really actually hurt us to track and which metrics we focused on in the new model. So let me compare the old model and the new model. I'll get to show you a lot of numbers here. So Indinero, the vitamin, all right, When people talked about Indinero before, they would talk about our 20,000 registered users. TechCrunch wrote an article about how Indinero had 20,000 registered businesses, and we were processing 5 million transactions and $2 billion through our platform. But you know the truth? Those metrics had zero, it didn't really tell you anything about the health of our business, right? They were vanity metrics. And to be honest with you, they also distracted us because we thought we were doing well. We were getting more people on the platform, but they weren't engaging. We were converting less than 1% of the users, and we had a super high churn rate. So let me tell you about Indinero, the Painkiller. So Indinero, the Painkiller today looks something like this. And I'll let you decide if it looks different, right? Indinero today makes over $300,000 per month. We're doubling year over year, and we have a 99% month-over-month retention rate. All right, so that is the difference between a vitamin and a painkiller, and these are the metrics that matter. So just to reiterate, revenue, month-over-month percent growth. These are the things that you should be focusing on, because sometimes it's easy to forget that we didn't start our companies to get emails and registered users, right? We started our companies to solve problems. So track engagement, track revenue. You know, all businesses are different. Absolutely, all businesses are different, but find the metrics that really matter for your business. The last lesson is find pain first, then worry about scale. So when I told people that we were going to add services onto a SaaS platform, people were very skeptical, and they said it would never scale. And some people even were really mean about it. They were like, how did you get YC to fund your lifestyle business? People would say really weird things like that. And our thought was that if you don't solve a pain, then you don't have to worry about scaling because you're just going to die, right? So my advice to you is try to find the pain first and worry about scaling later when you see the engagement, when you know you're solving a problem. And as for us not being scalable, if you look at our numbers today, we added services. But as you can see, we have the metrics that look like a successful SaaS company. We have a high amount of month-over-month retention rate on our subscriptions, and we have our margins speak for themselves. And how do we do this? So at first, I'll be honest with you, it was super manual. It was not scalable when Jess and I were doing everything ourselves. But by doing that process, we began to learn. I remember we would talk all night about the things we wanted to automate together, and we had real world experience. It was like being our own R&D department for the engineers, right? So we wanted to build software and have services, but at the heart, we're still a SaaS company. We're still a software company. So that's kind of important. So that's my 5th lesson, but I have one more lesson that I learned through experience, and it might be the most important lesson. And that's diverse teams win. All right, so my co-founders and I could not be more different. Andy is a decorated math nerd, and the other 2 co-founders were 2 women, completely opposite. So one, like Jess, is just intense and aggressive and strategic, and I'm really nurturing and sensitive and empathetic. And one of our first hires was a man in his 50s. And I believe that if you want to build a long-term team and you want to solve a hard problem, you need to build diverse teams. So I hope that from my presentation, I'm empathetic. Okay. I hope that from my presentation, you guys will have the courage to start again when you fail, to find your customer pain by any means, to value empathy, and to build diverse teams and build excellent companies. I do hope, however, that you don't have to burn $1 million to figure it out. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you very much. Okay, right.